HOA complained about my flagpole, didn't know it's on registered military burial grounds. Have you ever fought for something so deeply personal, only to discover the ground you're standing on holds secrets that could change everything? In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Florida, retired Marine veteran Marcus Reed stood in his front yard, staring at the 18-foot flagpole he'd erected to honor his fallen comrades. The American flag snapped proudly in the breeze, a symbol of sacrifice and service. Marcus, a grizzled man in his 60s with a limp from a long-ago injury, felt a surge of pride every time he saw it. But that pride was short-lived. The Willow Creek Homeowners Association, HOA, had other plans. They sent him a letter, cold and formal, demanding he remove the flagpole immediately for violating community aesthetic guidelines. Unapproved structures, they called it, threatening fines and legal action if he didn't comply. Marcus's blood boiled. This wasn't just a flagpole, it was a tribute to the brothers he'd lost in combat. How dare they? The HOA's president, Karen Whitmore, was a force to be reckoned with. Known for her iron grip on the neighborhood's standards, she patrolled Willow Creek with a clipboard and a penchant for control. To her, Marcus's flagpole was an eyesore, a defiant middle finger to the HOA's meticulously crafted rules. She rallied the board, citing bylaws about uniformity and curb appeal, and sent escalating notices. First a warning, then a $500 fine, then a lawsuit threat. Marcus, stubborn as ever, refused to budge. "I've faced worse than Karen in Fallujah," he growled to his wife, Lena, tossing the latest letter into the trash. But the pressure was mounting, and Lena worried about the legal costs. "We can't afford this fight," she whispered one night, her voice trembling. Marcus just squeezed her hand. "Some things are worth fighting for." What Karen and the HOA didn't know was that Marcus had done his homework before planting that flagpole. He'd always been meticulous, a habit from his military days. When they bought the house, he discovered something extraordinary in the property records. Their lot was part of a small, forgotten parcel registered as a military burial ground from the Civil War era. A handful of Union soldiers, buried in 1864, rested beneath the soil, their graves unmarked but documented in county archives. Marcus had chosen the flagpole's spot deliberately, not just for visibility but to honor the hallowed ground. He kept this quiet, assuming it wouldn't matter to the HOA, but as their demands grew louder, he realized this secret could be his ace in the hole. The tension exploded at the next HOA meeting, held in the community center's stuffy conference room. Karen stood at the podium, her voice dripping with authority as she listed Marcus's violations. Neighbors murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. Marcus, leaning on his cane, rose to speak. "This flagpole isn't just about me," he said, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "It's about the men who died for this country, some buried right under my yard." The room fell silent. Karen's face froze, her clipboard trembling slightly. "That's absurd," she scoffed. "You expect us to believe your backyard is a cemetery?" But Marcus was prepared. He pulled out a folder of documents, county records, historical maps, even a letter from the Veterans Affairs Office confirming the site status. The crowd gasped as he passed copies around, the truth sinking in. Then came the twist. Sarah, a quiet neighbor who rarely attended meetings, stood up. A librarian with a passion for local history, she'd been researching Willow Creek's past for years. "He's right," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "I found the same records in the county archives. There's more. Willow Creek was built over a larger burial site than we thought. At least a dozen soldiers are buried across several lots." She held up her own evidence. Faded photographs of a 19th-century memorial ceremony held on the very land the neighborhood now occupied. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Karen's confident facade cracked as whispers turned to outrage. Neighbors who'd once sided with her now questioned her judgment. How could the HOA enforce petty rules on sacred ground? The confrontation reached its peak when Marcus's lawyer, a pro bono veteran advocate named Tom Grayson, stepped in. Tom had served in the Army and had no patience for bureaucratic overreach. He cited the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005, which protected Marcus's right to fly the flag, and Florida's 2023 law allowing flagpoles under 20 feet, regardless of HOA rules, as long as they met safety standards. But he didn't stop there. "This land is a registered military burial site," Tom declared, holding up the documents. "Any attempt to remove this flagpole could violate federal laws protecting historic sites." Karen's face turned ashen. The HOA's attorney, sensing defeat, scribbled notes furiously but said nothing. The room erupted in applause for Marcus, with neighbors like Frank, a fellow veteran, shouting, "Leave him alone. He's earned this." Karen's campaign unraveled swiftly. The HOA board, humiliated by the oversight, withdrew the lawsuit under pressure from the community. Social media posts on X exploded with support for Marcus, with users calling Karen the ultimate HOA tyrant and sharing stories of similar battles. The board issued a public apology, admitting they'd failed to verify the property's history. Karen, once the neighborhood's self-appointed queen, became a pariah. Neighbors stopped inviting her to barbecues, and her clipboard patrols dwindled. She resigned as president a week later, citing personal reasons. But the damage was done. Her reputation, built on control, lay in tatters, a victim of her own hubris. Marcus's flagpole stood taller than ever, now joined by a small plaque he installed, dedicating it to the soldiers beneath his feet. In the end, Marcus didn't just keep his flagpole, he sparked a movement. Neighbors began researching their own lots, uncovering more of Willow Creek's hidden history. The community voted to amend the HOA bylaws, prioritizing respect for historical sites and veterans' rights. Marcus and Lena hosted a Memorial Day barbecue, where the flag flew high and neighbors raised a toast to freedom and sacrifice. Marcus, usually stoic, wiped a tear as he looked at the flag. "This is for them," he said softly, meaning both his comrades and the soldiers long gone. What would you do if you were Marcus, standing on sacred ground, facing a Karen who didn't understand? Share your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between community rules and personal freedom?